We could do many different things, and we could make complicated things. Then it awakens and it becomes artificial intelligence. And all this creation that we have done has replicated what God did to get us here, but in a shorter amount of time. Soon we may feel like we're being displaced. We're not. We're being kicked upstairs. You need to turn to your divine wisdom and let that lead you. That old stuff, that rote learning, that being what everybody else said you should be, that not knowing what's your gift and not living it, that's got to go. And what has to replace it is this connection to the divine, to the heart of things, to the love, to the transcendent, to the forgiving, to the magnificent beingness. That has to be ascendant. Otherwise, we will be displaced, because it'll be faster, cheaper, better. But no one can replace the Spirit. Today we're talking about purpose, and I feel really lucky to be here because it feels so much like this is a special community, and if you haven't noticed, you're a part of this community that you won't find everywhere. And somehow, who maybe the Moonies and all the other people that helped form this thing knew when they did it what a great place this would be, but they did it on purpose, and they made a place for us. And for all you people who have just come here in the last 10 years, this place has been alive for 38 years. And it is a place where people have come for almost 4 decades to meet happiness in the faces of the people they know and to remember who they really are. Powerful purpose. So thank you for those founders, and thank you for those who supported it, and thank you for those who built it, and thank you for those who are here today. This is a great place to be. Thank you. So we had a great play. Thank you all for doing that. It's the first time we've done that. That's really fun. I want to talk about purpose, and I know that many people, no matter what age you are, often have a hard time declaring their purpose. I was watching a TED talk by a young woman who was talking about how she got anxiety when people say, what are you going to do when you grow up? And from the age of 5, they would ask her, and then it wasn't such a big deal at age 5. You could make up anything. I want to be a pirate or something like that. But as she got older and they kept asking, they kept thinking, she kept hearing that what they're asking is, what is the one thing you're going to do in your life? What is your purpose, essentially? And one of the things that she could not answer was a single thing, because her attention would be on something for a while and she would be passionate about it and it'd be all she was doing for a while, and then be bored with that and move over here, and then she would do that, and then she would move over here, and so it would go for her. So she had too many things to say one thing. And so she came up with this idea that she was essentially a Renaissance person, and that her superpower, her big gift, was adaptability, and that many people are like that. Not everybody, but many people are like that, and that maybe you have a smorgasbord of purposes that you'll get to over time. And but for the sake of this conversation and to make it simple, I'm just going to act like everybody's got one purpose, but although you may be somebody who's a real Renaissance person who has many purposes. Mark Twain said this: the 2 most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. And as everybody knows, Viktor Frankl is famous for saying we can endure anything as long as we know why. And so let's talk about that. That's what we're going to talk about. What is your purpose? Now, in the meditation, we offered a simplistic, easy solution. What is your gift, and to whom do you give it to? So if nothing else I say today, you can take that home and try it on, see if it works for you if you're looking for your purpose. What do you have that is unusual and special about you, and who will benefit from it? And that will tell you who you do it for and what you do. Pretty simple, right? Just sit down, Yeah. But if you can't figure out your purpose, figure out your passion. This is T.D. Jakes. For your passion will lead you right into your purpose. So what is it you really get excited about? I was talking to somebody after the first service. You know, we have a 9 o'clock service. For those of you who are interested, we'd really like you to attend it if that's what you're interested in, getting in and getting out before 11 o'clock. But I was talking to this man, and he said, you know, I've been talking to my wife, and she was standing there for years about what my purpose is. And he goes, all I know is I like to help people. And I thought, well, that's a long way toward the answer, isn't it? It's just now, how do you do it, right? Or for whom you do it. But he loves to help people, which is right interesting. Some of us are built that way, right? Most people have a bit of that. So his purpose must involve how to help people, right? That's what brings him passion. It brings him joy, brings him livelihood. Howard Thurman said, don't do what people tell you should do. Do what makes you alive. Because what we need are more people that are alive, right? Number 3, if you have a strong purpose in life, you don't need to be pushed. Your passion will drive you there. I was listening to another TED Talk, and a young educator was saying that some of the latest research that she has done is to figure out who's going to be successful in her classroom, in the world, in life, in relationships. And it turned out that the key ingredient for being successful in life, for doing whatever you're doing, is grit, tenacity, hanging in there, getting up when you've been knocked down. And that is so important if you want to have a successful life. Tenacity. And what makes tenacity easier? Knowing why you're doing it. Knowing that what you're doing is important to you and to others. That is part of the ability of those who would be successful, is to have a strong why. Now, some of us just have grit, period. We don't need a why. You just can't tell us no. We're just going to do it. We're going to do what we say we're going to do. We're going to show up on time. We're going to follow through. We're going to learn whatever needs to be learned. We're going to do whatever needs to be done, just because that's who we are, tenacious. But others of us are greatly supported by the idea, I'm doing this for a purpose. I'm doing this for a reason. I have a reason to live. And as the play showed, sometimes when you have a change in circumstances, you sometimes lose track or even need to reinvent why you're doing something. True enough. Sometimes it's time for change. And maybe your purpose has been fulfilled in that area. Now, when Viktor Frankl was in the concentration camps, sometimes his purpose was to stay alive. Period. No grand story, nothing outside of that moment, just to make it through the day. But as Darlene, in her talk a couple of weeks ago, said, when I think it was Christopher Wren, the architect, asked 3 laborers who were working on the project that he was in charge of, what are you doing here? The first one said, I'm making $1 shilling a day. Not a bad idea. Second one said, I'm building a door. And the third one said, hey, haven't you heard? We're building the biggest cathedral in the world. This is going to be the most magnificent thing in the world. I'm building a cathedral. And on a bad day, which one do you think would hold out the longest? I don't know for sure. But it seems to me like if you could point high enough, then your purpose might carry you over those doldrums better than if you're just about the shilling or the immediate job. What is my purpose? And that comes back to your passion, because to some degree your passion is baked into who you are, right? It's basically going to carry you through the long run. And you may have, as the first person I was talking about on TED said, she has lots of passions, but let it be pulling. Let it pull you rather than feel like an obligation. I think that's quite fundamental to us being successful, that we let our heart to some degree lead in this. Because, the world will tell you a lot of things you should do. Alan Watts said something, and I'm going to paraphrase. Why would you work all day long doing something you don't want to do so that you can raise children and teach them to do the same thing? So let it guide you. And how many of us say, how many of us as we start out as parents say, I can't wait to see what she grows up into, and you can be anything you want to be. You could do anything you want to, and she says, I want to be a magician. And you go, no, not that. Right? So this, we can be thwarted. And sometimes it takes courage. I just started reading a book. I'm not far enough into it to even know what the book's about, but the title really caught our attention, which is The Courage to be Disliked. Written by two Japanese. So, I was in Japan and we were talking with a few people there, and they said, you Americans, you all want to be different, but we all want to be alike. So maybe that's why it has that ring to it. We're afraid sometimes to step out on our own, to be different than others, to carve our own path. But if you have real passion, you can, and it's calling you, perhaps you should listen. Because really, I love this phrase, you're the only one who can do you. All the other jobs have been taken. So don't try to be someone else. Although I think we can be greatly influenced by people who are doing it well. I have this friend in California. Well, he was in California, but I had this friend who was the most purposeful person I ever met. I never saw him do anything that wasn't towards something. Even in his idle time, he was resting up to do something. Even when he threw a banquet, what his purpose was to throw the banquet. He was on purpose. He went to San Francisco. I remember this little vignette of a story he told me. He went into town, and he and his wife didn't have a place to stay, and he said, I'll have one by this evening. And sure enough, he found one. He saw a sign above his head as he was walking down the street, and he went in and got it just like that. He's the same guy that was so on purpose. We would leave his house in a small Volkswagen station wagon, and we would be doing 60 miles an hour within 3 blocks in downtown San Francisco. He was on purpose and on fire most of the time. It was a great example for me of how to live with gusto towards something. And he made millions and millions of dollars. And then he decided that that was not his purpose anymore. His purpose was to save the planet, to do his part to save a good chunk of Chile and Argentina. And he did that. But he did it with purpose. And all of us remember him as being the most capable person we ever met, all my friends. And that's how we talked about him. And granted, he was pretty smart, and he was pretty athletic, and he was pretty good looking, and he was, but he didn't even finish high school, I don't think. He just did it. And so he chose the path that nobody else was taking. He chose to be himself. And Lord Almighty, he was himself. I don't think we get points by being afraid of being who we are. We get points by doing it. So if you're doubting, I don't know if this makes any sense. Well, of course it doesn't. No one else is doing it. It's your job. You should be doing it, right? I remember someone in a speech once said, I love boundaries. They really help me. Because when you find a boundary, you found the limit of what has been done, and then your imagination shows you what can be done. Take the classic of this thing. The classic sports thing is Roger Bannister, 4-minute mile. No one had done it. It was thought to be physiologically impossible for a human being to run a mile in 4 minutes. And so he changed his workout routine from working out extremely to pacing himself, taking some time to rest and stuff like that. And he breaks the 4-minute mile. Amazing. The world was shocked until about within 6 months, 16 other people had done it. What is impossible today will be done tomorrow. Imagine Stonehenge. The average person lived in a mud hut or a stone hovel, yet they built Stonehenge. The things we remember about societies, the Greeks, the Chinese, the Indus Valley, what we remember about them is not the average, but those inspired things that they did for a purpose to bring meaning to their lives. They built temples, they built monuments, they built Stonehenge. And that Stonehenge was so much more than the average person. Collectively, they were able to do something hard to believe even today. Move enormous, heavy stones, stack them on upright, and then put bigger stones on top of it. Can you imagine if you have no machinery and you make this a purposeful act, and that act lasts 5,000 years? A long time. We have a habit of thinking, oh, well, that's kind of weird and out there. But what is it that inspires you? What really brings the best out in you is not the easy and not the obvious, but what is unique about you? For this you were born. Someone said, Picasso said, finding your gift is the meaning in life. Giving your gift is your purpose. So don't despair if you don't know yet. There are ways to get there. I basically think you can ask your friends. That's one way. What do you think my purpose is? Or what do you think I bring to the table? What do you think I can make the most of in my life? That's a good place to start. If that doesn't bring anything, turn within and ask this question. When you're deeply still, I've been very impressed by the possibility that each of us know the answer to the questions that have befuddled us forever, but we don't get to them because we don't get down to the level of wisdom. When we get down to the level of wisdom, then those subtle little knowings can be heard. So sit and wait. But I'm going to recommend that you do the sitting like we just did, which is get really still and turn and focus not on any question, but focus on getting really still, compacting into who you really are, this core, this quiet, and then ask the question and see if something comes up. And then if that doesn't answer if you don't say, what's my purpose, and it goes, then say, how should I know? And maybe you'll get an answer there. But there is a path of deeper wisdom that is in you. I want to finish this by talking about AI, which, and one other thing, which I think there's a general, correct me if I'm wrong, anxiety or down to despair that is running through the population right now. At least I feel it. It was so hot, and it's been so hot, and the big storms and all the things that confirm that global warming is happening has really made me feel bad. And the fact that we're doing so little about it means it will only get worse before it gets better. That bothers me. The country is divided and angry with each other, and it appears that we're not coming together on that, and that bothers me. And this thought that maybe everybody will be displaced except for people who work with their hands will be displaced by AI because they'll just figure out how to do things faster and stuff. And we won't have a place in this world, and our purpose will disappear. But I have a solution. I have two solutions. One, as I was saying at the beginning, this is a special community. I really believe as a community and as individuals in this community, we need to commit ourselves to looking at the light and not at the darkness. Now, we will see darkness, and you don't have to be blinded to look at the light only, but to be able to see, to notice it's there, but to keep your eye on the prize, not on the problem, to look at the mountaintop, not at the crevasse. That is what we have to do. And we have to do it so strongly that we make space in the psychic field for a home where people will walk into and feel, oh gosh, this feels different. I have hope. I have faith. I could do something. And that we stand here together, not as 100 different individuals, but as a community. And so when one of us falls or is weakened or is tired or is suffering in grief, we don't leave them in that. And part of the way we don't even leave them in that is just by being here in a bright, light way. As Howard Thurman said, live your life. And that light will brighten everybody's life. Let that be what we do in this time of distress. Let's jump into I don't want to say a positive mindset, I mean an awakened, light-filled life that's lived with purpose and with love and with kindness, that knows forgiveness, that knows how to be a real friend and to stand in your truth without hurting another. That's where we need to be. That's A. B, the second one is, AI is going to show us something that I think has been happening in the world, and I'll describe it this way. In the beginning was all energy. In the Big Bang, there was just energy, and then it kind of quieted down enough that it could be formed into atoms, and those atoms then became molecules and so on, and then things got heavier and denser, and we started to have stars, and then we had rocks, and then we had all this stuff, and it gradually came into forming planets, and we have a planet now, and out of this planet, life emerged, and somehow life emerged and got more and more complicated, and the organisms got more articulate in what they could do, and finally intelligence came about, and intelligence got brighter and brighter and brighter, and finally we arrived, and we are here. And we were so smart that we replicated the whole thing. We started with stone tools and stone buildings, and then we became more articulate in our building, and we could do many different things, and we could make complicated things as complicated as cars and factories, and we could start this whole process of civilization, and it gets bigger and bigger and more complicated, and then it awakens and it becomes artificial intelligence, and all this creation that we have done has replicated what God did to get us here, but in a shorter amount of time. And soon we may feel like we're being displaced, but we're not. We're being kicked upstairs. Right? And the upstairs is you need to turn to your divine wisdom and let that lead you. That old stuff, that rote learning, that being what everybody else said you should be, that not knowing what's your gift and not living it, that's got to go. And what has to replace it is this connection to the divine, to the heart of things, to the love, to the transcendent, to the forgiving, to the magnificent beingness. That has to be ascendant. Otherwise, we will be displaced because it'll be faster, cheaper, better. But no one can replace the Spirit. We haven't figured that out yet. So let's put our attention, more of our attention at least, on that. That's where we can become who we have come here to be. I want to finish with Reinhold Niebuhr. Reinhold Niebuhr was a theologian in the Christian tradition. Nothing worth doing, can be achieved in our lifetime. Therefore, we must be saved by hope. Nothing which is true or beautiful or good makes complete sense in any immediate context of history. Therefore, we must be saved by faith. Nothing we do, however virtuous, can be accomplished alone. Therefore, we must be saved by love. I'm going to read that again, but you forgive me, I messed up there. No virtuous act is as virtuous from the standpoint of our friend or foe as from our standpoint. Therefore, we must be saved by that form of love, which is forgiveness. Let us pray. Feel. Feel first your emotion or your sensation of your face. But let's begin to pay attention to the feel of this moment. So. You're alive. You're here. You are a piece of the continent that cannot be lost. So we ask not for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for all of us. It is for us. We are here. We're here with purpose and meaning. And if we don't know it yet, we will find it if we look. What you do matters. What you are can never be erased. So let us feel what it is to be alive. And as practice, let us say, what is my gift? What is my gift? And then who shall I give it to? For whom do I have it to give? And lastly, let's make a commitment to awaken to our divine nature in a community through love, service, and personal transformation. And so it is. Amen. I hope you got something out of today's service. We intend to bring you things that will help you in your life become more of who you want to be, give you the freedom of forgiveness and the hope of expectancy that your life will unfold in a way that brings you joy, happiness, and is a contribution to the world. If you would like to contribute to this ministry, please go to unitytriangle.org, hit the donate button, and it will lead you into an easy way of doing that. We thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you again here.